All right, hi everyone. So last time we started chapter 3.2.5 on energy and computation, and we wrote down Landauer's principle, also called Landauer's limit, which is a very interesting statement about the physics of computation. So we're not going to prove this in the course, that's going to be beyond the scope, but we do want to know it because it's going to motivate what we do for the rest of this section about reversible computation. So Landauer's principle states that when a single bit of information is erased, the energy dissipated to the environment is at least k b t log 2. So this is a physical constant, Boltzmann's constant, not too important. This is the temperature of the computer or the environment. Equivalently, we can state this as an entropy. So that'll just be removing the temperature T. So when a single bit of information is erased, the entropy of the environment will increase by at least k log 2. You can think about this as working in units where this Boltzmann's constant is 1. So the important thing here is the log of 2. So this is a lower bound on the energy dissipated per elementary operation. Computers are not quite near this, at least around the time the textbook was written, year 2000. The actual energy is around 500 times this, so 500 kt log 2. And in principle, you can get that lower, but it's not a statement about the sort of inefficiency of the computer. It's a statement about the physics and what it means to erase information. So you can't get below this as long as you're erasing information. But the trick is we're going to not erase information. We're going to do computation reversibly, and that's going to allow us to get below this. So as long as physics is reversible, as long as we compute reversibly, meaning that we'll have some initial state of our computer. We'll be able to go forward to a final state, but we'll also be able to go backwards to the initial states. Most laws of physics that we know are reversible, and so we're going to try to follow suit and build a computer which also could be operated reversibly. So we saw a few examples of reversible gates last time. We saw first that the AND gate was not reversible, but that the NOT gate was reversible. Let me introduce you to a new gate, which is going to be reversible. We're going to call this the Fredkin gate. And the intuitive way, so this is after the name of the person who made some interesting statements about this gate, but the way to think about this is the controlled swap gate. So controlled swap, or C-swap for short. What this gate is going to do is it's going to have 3 bits of input. Let's call them A, B, and C. So there's going to be 8 total options, and we'll write down the full truth table. And there will also be 3 bits of outputs, A prime, B prime, and C prime. So before I write all of it out, it's just more intuitive to state it simply as if C is equal to 1, swap A and B. So that's the controlled swap. Swap, we know it's just exchanging the values of A and B. And then we're going to do this in a controlled way. So if the control bit C is 1, swap A and B. So this is where we need to write out the truth table. So all 8 entries. I think I got them all. And now we're just going to use this logic and look at it. So if the control bit C is 0, I'm not going to do anything. So 0, 0, 0. If the control bit C is 1, I am going to swap the values. Here they happen to be the same, so there's going to be no change, 0, 0, 1. And hopefully you get the idea from this. So 0, 1, 0, control bit 0, so I don't swap, 0, 1, 0. In this case, I am going to swap, so we should get 1, 0, 1. Does everyone see the idea here? Controlled version of the swap gate, so let's just finish it. 1, 0, 0, no change. Here I will swap, 0, 1, 1. Here, control bit is 0, so no change, 1, 1, 0. And here, control bit is 1, so I will swap. They happen to be the same, so no change. Okay. So this is a valid logical operation. If you look at this table, you'll see that there is indeed a unique output for every input. So this will be a reversible gate. So as a theorem, C swap is reversible. In addition to it being reversible, there's actually a few more interesting properties that it has. It's actually going to conserve the number of ones, which you might expect. You know, it's just going to swap them. So that's to say that whatever the input number of ones is, so here it's 0, the output number of ones will be the same. Here all zeros, here all zeros. Here there's 1, 1, here there's 1, 1, so on and so forth. You can work through this for all the cases. So you could think about this as a reversible logical gate. It's also conservative in the sense that it conserves the number of 1. That's related to physical laws which conserve energy, conserve mass, so on and so forth. We'll use the following circuit notation to indicate controlled swap. So we'll have 3 lines for the 3 bits, A, B, and C. For the control bit, we're going to indicate that with a solid dot. And then that's going to act on the target bits. And for the swaps, we'll indicate that with 2 X's. Okay? So this is the notation that we'll use. Whatever the control bit is, that's where you put the solid dot. And then the other bits that are being swapped get X's like this, and they're all connected with this vertical line.